Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. I see that you're slowly starting to join us, and I'd like to wish you a warm welcome and say that we're excited for you to take a closer look at SERVERware 5.0, our biggest update yet to Bicom Systems' virtual infrastructure platform. Today, we'll explore how this release will improve speed, monitoring, and management while adding new layers of protection for voice over IP services. Presenting today is Nadia Chulisic, Product Owner for SERVERware and Seprat, who will walk you through the key updates, give you a closer look at how these features work, and answer your questions at the end of the session. Before we start, I just want to give you a quick reminder that the session is being recorded and will soon be available on our Resource Center and YouTube channel. And you can submit your questions at any time using the Q&A panel, and we'll address them during the dedicated Q&A portion at the end. With that, let's get started. Nadia, over to you to walk us through SERVERware 5.0.
Thank you, Anya. Hello, everyone, and a big welcome from everyone behind SERVERware. We're so happy you were able to join our webinar, and I'm excited to present the new and exciting features coming with SERVERware 5. SERVERware 5 is set to release September 23rd, so this webinar is an official sneak peek into what's to come. One of our major features for this release is definitely the addition of another protocol for improved storage performance, NVMe over TCP, along with iSCSI will be available as the storage protocols for the SEN network. Along the process of implementing NVMe over TCP, we've decided to give the create/edit VPS dialog a fresh look, and at the same time optimize the process of adding and editing VPSs. As with every SERVERware release, we take security seriously. So with SERVERware 5, you can expect improvements in our security module, Seprat. We tackled spam invite requests, and I can't wait to share how it works. SERVERware administrators will be happy to hear that with this release, we have improved monitoring of the entire infrastructure, from hardware-specific metrics to serverware-specific stats. They will be able to track, receive alarms and notifications and more, thanks to the Prometheus and Grafana integration in SERVERware. And for the end, I want to share some information about GR practices with regards to updates. So let's dive in. SERVERware admins that have been us for some time know that NVMe over TCP is not a brand new addition to the SERVERware ecosystem, as it's already supported for our replication network, used to sync the data between the two storage hosts. And the biggest advantage that NVMe over TCP brings is the parallelism the protocol enables, essentially allowing several operations to be performed in parallel, utilizing the machine and its resources much more efficiently. And so with SERVERware 5, we wanted to bring that advantage to our SEN network as well, allowing faster read and write operations to be executed. iSCSI still remains as an option. However, the default protocol for all new VPSs will be NVMe over TCP. Changing the protocol to existing VPSs can be done with a click. However, it does require stopping the VPS. The edge that NVMe over TCP brings compared to iSCSI will be noticeable on the mirror and cluster editions of SERVERware. The biggest changes with this implementation happened in the backend. So to provide some tangible results and to show why we decided in favor of implementing this for the SEN network, we wanted to share the results of the benchmarking tests that we ran. And so we deployed 5 VPSs that each had simultaneous jobs running 4 different services that required write actions to be performed on the disks in chunks of 4, 8, 16, 64, and 128 kilobytes. And notable factors that played into this. So one, there was a physical bottleneck on the SEN network in the sense that the links on the SEN network were configured to 1 gigabits per second, and then the disks on our clusters are SSDs. And on this slide here, you can see the graphs of all the storage tests that were run. I will not get into each and every one of them, but I'll mention the most interesting ones. So the first one here, disk read write IOPS, counts the number of read and write requests per second on the disk. The biggest difference is, as you can see, noticeable for 4K writes, where with NVMe over TCP, the values go between 5,000 and 7,000 IOPS, whereas for iSCSI, it's kept somewhere around 500. Block sizes for ZFS volumes in serverware are optimized for 8K writes. And even in those instances, the differences between NVMe and iSCSI are quite astounding, comparing somewhere between 3 and 4,000 IOPS and around just about 250 for iSCSI. For 16K writes, the difference between NVMe and iSCSI is still quite noticeable, while for higher writes, it sort of starts to taper off, and that is due to the physical limitations of the SAN network on this test cluster. And so you'll notice this trend on other tests as well. So this read write merged, for example, this shows the number of merged read and write actions that happen on the kernel level to optimize the storage operations. And so as you can see for NVMe, those values are barely noticeable. It means that NVMe handled all tasks as they came and there was no real need to merge the read and write requests. Then we have the average queue size, and so high values of average queue size combined with the low average wait times indicates that these devices were able to handle many requests in parallel quite well, which is another point in favor of NVMe. And so overall, looking at the resources stats on serverware, NVMe proves to be an improvement as it fully utilizes the SAN network compared to iSCSI. But that utilization comes with the cost of higher CPU usage and consequently higher IO wait time values on the processing hosts. However, that can be easily mended by adjusting the IOPS values for VPSs. And so if there are any VPSs that have unlimited IOPS, they should be limited to a specific value just based on the amount of data generated by that VPS. For our next releases, we will look into further optimizing NVMe and resource consumption. So as I've mentioned in the introduction, adding this new protocol to the Create VPS dialog had a natural consequence of us having to redesign the entire user interface. And as you might have already noticed in the screenshot a few slides ago, and during our demo session, I'll just walk you quickly through the changes. Another major improvement that we've added, and this was with the aim to provide better monitoring of the entire infrastructure layer of the BICOM platform. SERVERware now offers expanded observability options for the entire cluster, as well as process exporters that can be enabled for individual VPSs. We've accomplished this by implementing Prometheus, which is an open source software for monitoring and alerting. And on serverware, Prometheus is running on the controller, and all metrics from all hosts and VPSs on the cluster are sent to this database instance. By default, observability is disabled, so you'll have to enable it under the observability section in the system settings. We've also added guidelines for configuring the data source in Grafana, just to ensure a fast and simple way for administrators to start using the observability feature. You'll also need to generate a serverware API token as a means of authentication between the controller and Grafana. The buttons here in the graphical user interface will lead you directly to, will lead you to directly to the node exporter dashboards in Grafana. And if you click on this button here, this will provide the JSON file of the serverware dashboard that you can use to import in Grafana. Which brings us to our next big item, which is that serverware now has a dashboard on Grafana, which contains serverware specific graphs like the number of active calls, VPSs, partition hosts, and then you can track call distribution per VPSs, per partition, per host. We can also, or actually administrators can monitor DNS requests by zone and type, and of course, GR-related stats. As I mentioned previously, for each individual VPS, you can enable metrics collection, which will activate the process exporter for VPSs that show up on the SERVERware dashboard. So this tracks the processes within a VPS, and it can be effectively utilized to monitor problematic VPSs and pinpoint which processes consume high amounts of RAM or CPU. For the purpose of providing more control over incoming SIP traffic, we've reintroduced the rate limiter for invites to SIPROD. We see this as a good tool for managing spam invites that, even though are rejected, still end up showing on various logs and monitoring dashboards. This functionality allows the administrator to define the exact number of invite requests that can be received from a single IP address based on the frequency of the requests, so per second, per minute, and per hour. So let me explain how the rate limiter works. So as most of you know, each SIP call consists of two invite requests. So the first request is sent to establish the connection, then gets rejected, requiring authorization. And so the second request is sent with authorization. The burst value here takes that into account. So meaning that the number specified here defines the size of your bucket or how many SIP calls will pass through. So in our example here, the bucket has 10 tokens available for invites sent to this cluster. So those are basically 5 SIP calls with 2 invite requests for each. A system that receives 4 SIP invites from a single IP address in a minute will trigger rate limiting. So 60 divided by 4 means that every 15 seconds a new invite can be accepted, and all invites sent from that IP address in the meantime will be dropped. So let's say that our bucket now has 10 tokens, so 5 SIP calls will pass through. And for each SIP call, you spend 2 tokens. And so for the first 5 calls, you'll use up all your tokens, and those first 5 calls will pass through, after which the bucket is emptied. And so this is when the rate limiting kicks in. All calls that are coming from that IP address will now be dropped until new tokens are generated. The frequency of token generation is dictated by the other 2 settings that we defined. So this here, so in our example, that would be 4 invites per minute, which gives about 2.5 minutes, if my math is correct, for the bucket to become full again. IP addresses that have the rate limiter applied to them for the amount of time defined in the block threshold will be permanently blocked, with a note in the denial list saying that it was blocked due to excessive invite requests, as you can see here on this slide. And allowed IPs will be exempt from the rate limiter. When we also added logging for addresses that are flagged by the rate limiter. These IPs will appear on the attack logs, displaying the exact information as other methods documented on the logs. So meaning that you can see the attacker and the victim IP address. You can see the attack type, of course, the user agent device that is used, along with the timestamp. And since this is a major version upgrade, we want to reassure our partners who use geo-redundancy that the feature remains backward compatible with version 4. So VPSs that are created and replicated from V4 will be taken over and run on V5 without an issue. VPSs that are creating on V5 can be replicated and taken over, but running those VPSs might fail due to older versions missing crucial metadata. So this is why we recommend updating the GR site first, moving all VPSs to the GR site, and then updating the production site. And so this concludes our sort of presentation section. So I'd like to just demo everything that I've just spoken about. So give me a second just to pull up the serverware. So to our serverware cluster. Anya, can you just please confirm that you can see see the dashboard?
Yes, the dashboard is on the screen.
Okay, thank you. So the first thing that I want to talk about right now is the new create or edit VPS dialog. And so as you can see here, it's been a little rearranged. So our template type has now been transformed into a drop-down menu from which you can select the type of VPS that you want to deploy. So I'm choosing just official here. So because I want to deploy a PBXware, and just go through the process as you usually go. As you can see, NVMe is the default storage protocol here selected. And we've moved the security page that was on a separate tab. We moved it here just to simplify the process of creating this VPS. So let's go to the next page. So I'll just move on to this backup NGR tab here. So if you recall, this used to be actually located here on the general tab, but we've decided that it deserves its own tab. It should be relocated here, and you can define whether this VPS will be excluded from the backup and whether it will be included in geo redundancy, and decide or select which GR job it will be included in. And this is the VPS creation process. So everything else remains the same. Speaking of NVMe, so I said that changing the protocol is quite simple. It's really easy. It's just a couple of clicks. So you saw how I selected when I created the VPS, how I selected it on the Create VPS dialog. But when I want to edit the storage protocol, this has actually been moved down here to the storage tab. And you can change it here by clicking on this button. But to change that, as I said, you'd have to stop the VPS first. So let's just wait until it stops. Okay, click on this button, select NVMe, and then change it back. And then start the VPS. Oh, so I did the mistake that I always caution against. So you just have to wait sometimes for the backend actions to be completed before starting the VPSs. So changing that should be now. The protocol should be changed now. Yeah, okay, there it is. And so any other volume operations that are supported with iSCSI are supported with NVMe as well. So you can create snapshots of these VPSs. You can create clones, move them to a different partition or a different host. So basically everything that you could do with iSCSI, you can do with NVMe as well. So that would be everything when it comes to NVMe. So as I mentioned, to enable observability and to enable metrics collection and then display those in Grafana, you need to enable it here under system settings. And so since this is our test cluster, we already have one enabled. And you can see here just all the dashboards and all the stats of this test cluster. So you can see, total active calls per VPS, and so on. Core DNS. So we do not have any DNS set up at this moment since this is a test cluster. So it gets used very frequently and reinstalled very frequently. You can find replication statistics here, and then the process exporter. So to enable process exporter, you'll need to go to your VPS, click on edit, and then enable collect metrics, and then save it. And immediately after that, all the processes for the or all the stats for the process exporter will be then you'll be able to display them here in these dashboards. Changing this on the go, so while the VPS is running, is only possible for LXC VPSs. So I can turn this off and turn this on again without having to, stop the VPS. However, that won't be able for KVM VPSs just due to their, how they're designed to work. So because of their isolation. And of course, I wanted to mention that in order to be able to create and add these dashboards, you'll have to first create an API token that can be used to authorize with a serverware. And so to create an API token, so you go to account settings, click on API tokens, and then simply click on this plus sign. Select or input the API token name and generate the token. To add a new dashboard, so you'll need to go to connections and to data sources. Select the data source that you want to add, type in, the name of your cluster or of your system, the connection. So this is all the information if you can recall from this section here. So the Prometheus server URL. So this is what you can copy and paste into the connection section here. Authentication, choose no authentication, skip a TLS certificate, and then you can add or you need to add your API token here. Once that's all been configured and added, you can also save it and test it just to see that the connection between Grafana and your serverware is established. One more important thing that I forgot to mention, and that is important if you're not familiar with Grafana already, is that in order to be able to access a Grafana, you need to access it on port 3000. And that would be it from the observability section and from Grafana. Now I wanted to show you, or actually to simulate how the Cyprot invite rate limiter works. So let me just quickly show you our settings. So we now have the burst limit of 3. The burst limit of 3, so means we can receive 3 requests, 3 invite SIP calls, after which the rate limiter should kick in, and we'll be attacking this VPS. Sorry. So let's quickly open the terminal here, just so you can see what's going on. Okay, give me a moment, please. So I'm at the moment asking one of my colleagues from the development teams to attack us. Okay, and as you can see, he started to send spam invites, and he managed to get 3 invites, so 3 calls, after which, Cyprot rate limiting kicked in, and the IP address should be now, oh God, this is too much zoomed in. And so the IP address should be now on our dynamic denial list, and there it is. So you can see that it was dynamically blocked after 3 invites. After this dynamic block expires, the IP address will be able to try to make connections, but after it exceeds the block threshold, so it can be permanently blocked, and it will permanently then end on the denial list here. So that concludes our presentation and our demo. Anya, I give the mic back to you.
Thank you, Nadia. Thank you for walking us through those updates. Before we move into the Q&A session, let's quickly recap the most important points from today's webinar. So SERVErware 5 introduces NVMe over TCP support for faster and more efficient storage. The redesigned VPS management interface makes setup and editing simpler and quicker. Performance has improved across the board, especially in cluster and mirror editions. Prometheus and Grafana integration brings detailed real-time monitoring. The built-in SIP invite rate limiting protects against spam calls and invite floods, and the geo-redundancy remains compatible with older versions with some upgrade considerations. So now that we've covered the highlights of Serverware 5, let's turn to your questions. If you haven't already, feel free to drop them into the Q&A panel, and we'll go through as many as we can with Nadia. So the first question that we have for you right now is perhaps SpyCom will consider a different serverware version for those that only need as highly available Type 1 hypervisor, no need for SIP. We need alternative to VMware, Proxmox, and Virtuoso. Does SpyCom have any plans for this?
First of all, hi, Anthony. I'm happy that you were able to join this webinar. So we are primarily a SIP-focused business, and Serverware, well, with our current plans, we are still sort of in this SIP lane. Of course, we'll try to add as many features and options to expand what Serverware offers and how it can, how it can switch into the hypervisor world, but at the moment we are still focused only on SIP. And I can answer the second question as well, since it's again from Anthony. In regards to adding API hooks for external providers, we are definitely looking into that as an option. At the moment, I can't really tell you like a plan or like an exact timeline, but it's definitely something that we are looking into for the next serverware releases. For 5.1, we're still really focused on improving stability and hardening serverware, but maybe like for 5.2 or later versions, we'll definitely look into this.
Okay,
so Matthew asks,
yeah,
okay, go ahead. Sorry, Anya.
By Matthew, as you mentioned, is SIP invite burst limit available on standalone PBXware?
Yes. So the rate limiter is available, of course, on all serverware or on all separate editions. So on standalone and along with serverware.
An additional question would be, do you have any tips or tricks for optimizing the resource consumption of VPSs that are using NVMe as a storage protocol?
Well, when it comes to optimizing resource consumption, we do not really have any strict guidelines because it really does vary from VPS to VPS and just how many active extensions there are on that VPS, the amount of concurrent calls, various settings that are configured within PBX. Are there any internal, external services that are utilized, and so on. And we usually leave that to the system administrators because we trust them to know their systems the best. And what we can just suggest is to look out, maybe like the disk IOPS stats and serverware, maybe take that into consideration while limiting IOPS for each individual VPS. So just, set, observe, and change if necessary.
Thank you. The next question would be from Gabriel. How much regression testing has been performed on this new version, and how rigorous is the regression testing protocol?
Oh, we've been really, the entire summer, essentially, we've been really testing just how well the new protocol, implements, how well it works with within just all other technologies within serverware. We really tried to avoid, any kind of like data loss, any kind of disasters. So we've been very rigorous about it. I hope this answers your questions, Gabriel.
We've had some really nice comments from Anthony again. Thank you, Anthony. We appreciate you as well. The next question for Nadia would be, even though the node exporter and serverware dashboards cover a wide range of metrics, is it possible to import other boards available on Grafana or even any that are custom developed?
Oh, yeah, sure. So just as long as the data source is Prometheus, you can add as many dashboards as necessary. And thanks to the implementation of the process exporter and the node exporter, you can import any dashboard that also works with the process exporter and the node exporter just to get it like an even deeper understanding of your platform.
Currently, I think that would be all from the Q&A section. If you think you have any, oh, we have another one
Mhm.
that just came in
Okay.
from Harpreet. Geo redundancy question. Is there a plan to keep multiple sites active to reduce the amount of downtime?
Um, I'm not sure what you mean to keep multiple sites active. I mean, you can add as many sites and replicate to as many sites as necessary. I mean, as long as you have like the storage capacity for that, you can replicate your production sites to 2 or 3 or as many sites as you have. So the good thing about geo-redundancy and serverware overall that it is very scalable and it is very flexible when it comes to that. And so you can create like a geo-replication ring with several sites if necessary. I hope this answers your question.
I think that would be all for now. If anyone has anything to add or maybe another question to ask, it would be a good time.
VPS is active at the same time. That's a comment from Harpreet. So that is a little bit tricky at the moment, simply because the database and the way PBXer is created, having them run at the same time is quite complicated. So just if you try to send like um, if you try to send invites, the VPSs won't know, or the PBXer won't know which will respond, which will store the data. So the logic behind that is quite sort of complicated and convoluted at this moment. So I don't think this will be possible in the near future. That is, unless we sort of take the MySQL database out of PBXware and make it like a separate VPS that can be then sort of like an instance of its own that can be then replicated, of course, on different sites.
And we have an additional question from Anthony.
Mhm.
Assuming Bicom is already using this release internally for some production pods for hosted customers, will Bicom release any items to public repositories?
So I'm not sure what items do you mean exactly. If you can maybe just write that down. And in the meantime, I can answer Trevor's questions. Any plans for live VPS migrations? So this is something that I personally wanted to, add to serverware ever since we added KVM. But to be able to and have live VPS migrations, we needed to boost the overall underlying technologies. And so since we added NVMe, we're one step closer to it, but there's still some other things that we need to improve and enhance in serverware in order for us to have this feature of live VPS migrations. But I would love that. And I love that you're asking for it, honestly. It gives me the power to, push that forward.
I think that is everything when it comes to the
Mhm.
questions.
I'm just hoping that Anthony
I'm
maybe
waiting for
clarify what
Anthony
he's.
to clarify
Yeah.
because we would like to answer every possible question that you have. Of
Yeah,
course, we can
exactly.
do a follow-up
Exactly.
at any time, but it's good kind of to discuss while we're live.
Yeah, exactly.
And we do have an additional comment.
Hmm.
Just a thought, given the newer Linux distro, if any development work being pushed to any repos or free to use option. And Anthony has plenty of more questions which he's willing to email to us, but it's also okay if you want to go ahead and ask within the Q&A section.
Of course, yeah, we can take this conversation offline, Anthony. But anything that we sort of develop, this is what we keep sort of in house. So we do not share that, on any of these public repos, unless it's something specific to, for example, LXC or something like that. So like open source technologies. That is when we like push bug fixes or improvements or things like that, and those are sort of go through the official channels there on like LXC, for example.
Yeah, we hope we've given some more clarification. If there's no further questions at the time, we can proceed to conclude the webinar. Thank you everyone for attending. Thank you for joining us today. SERVErware 5 represents a major step forward for performance, visibility, and security in your infrastructure. So whether you're upgrading from an earlier version or deploying fresh, these tools are designed to give you more control and reliability in your daily operations. If you have more questions after today's session, feel free to reach out to our team, and you can see our website and contact email on the screen, or your account manager. And don't forget that the recording of this webinar will be available on our Resource Center and YouTube channel shortly. We appreciate your time today and look forward to seeing what you will build with SERVErware 5. So thank you everyone, and I hope you had a great time. Please feel free to reach out to us whenever. Thank you, Nadia, for
Thank
being the
you.
presenter.